Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all doing well and are in good health, at least physical health, because mental, better not to talk about it, right? Challenging times for everybody, even the most solid guys. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed yesterday's program and that you will be able to get out of the entire event something good, pleasant and memorable and replicable. So apologies for not being with you live today and for having to use a recorded video message, but at this very time when you're having the conference, I'll be in the middle of our annual conference. It's really difficult to postpone it. So I'll pretend that today is the 5th of November at 10 o'clock. So here I am telling you a story. Well, a story. I say a story because SCIS has actually been about telling stories, right? Stories about what a smart city means, what cities do to become smart, how they can learn from what they do and from what other cities do, how smart solutions and platforms and approaches can help a city being and becoming resilient, and so on. And for exactly this reason, for its stories, SCIS has been what made it so important and in a way unique. I'm not sure if you've listened to all the podcasts and looked into the knowledge that there is there, but they are, everything is so extremely useful, at least for me. Because it's about making change understandable and possible, knowledge easily accessible, and experience replicable and scalable. So let me correct myself. I'm not going to tell you a story, but what I would like to do is share some thoughts with you. And I'd like to do it by looking at the acronym of our beloved project, SCIS. Now, the people that know me, they know that I like to play with letters and they will laugh, but still, let's do it. I still want to do it because since we are at the end of this project, but a new beginning is actually starting with this conference, like the title says, I thought we could use some different words for that acronym in a way to reflect the situation we're currently, living in, especially in cities, with the pandemic, of course, but also, cities as places where so many issues and crises are at the moment concentrated. So, I don't have an I think my daughter stole it from my thing. SCIS. So let's start with the S. Is that right? Or it's the other way? I never know. Still, S for solidity. We're talking a lot about resilience, right? I find that, it's an important concept. But I also find that the word solidity is not very much used. And I find it really goes well with it. Let's think of a person. A resilient person is one that is able to, live, survive, grow well, even when exposed to, heavy challenges, health or whatever challenges. And so that is a solid person. A person doesn't collapse, doesn't die, that adapts, changes, regenerates, basically that stays there alive. And that is why I like to think the same for a city. A solid city is anchored. It can go through all sorts of challenges and crises, but it remains a place where its citizens want to be, want to live, despite all. A city that doesn't, let anyone down, that leaves no one behind, like, now people say. And what are the ingredients? Well, we will talk about some of them in some other letters, but a lot of them you will hear about in the next debate that follows my intervention now with fantastic speakers, and so you will know that. But for me, it's a way of thinking, of planning, of acting. It's about making sure that there is a sort of systemic transformation of the city that, also with the help of smart technologies and approaches, it adapts its journey, its path towards being and becoming that solid place where its citizens want to live. So not solid in the sense that, like a rock that doesn't change, but solid in the sense that people want to be there because they feel safe, they feel protected. And because at the moment it is not an easy game for anybody and even less for cities. And that's why my next letter is C. I don't know. C for crisis. Crisis with the plural. Today, cities are facing a crisis of many crises. The pandemic and its direct consequences, health and all the stuff, economic consequences, social and so on, but also like poverty, rising poverty, inequalities, all the stuff relates to the climate emergency, of course, the governance crisis, you name it. Cities do have a lot on their plate. The health crisis is actually just X-rayed, in a way, exposed and even accelerated a series of problems that has exposed those gaps, the many important gaps that exist in our systems that were already there in our systems and models. And cities are now at the forefront of all this, very often without the necessary powers and competences and the resources that they would need. And, tackling all this with some short-term actions, but at the same time also having a vision and long-term, strategies, it's no easy thing at all. Cities need, they need to care for very concrete issues at the moment. I wouldn't want to be a mayor at the moment, so many people are losing their jobs. The tourism and the culture sectors are dying. So many elderly need to be taken even more care of now, and so on. It's all very pressurizing and urgent, and keeping lucid and with a long-term, systemic, integrated, holistic, vision, long-term. It's super hard. And also having strategies and plans where you need to prioritize actions that are able to address all these many crises at the same time, environmental, social, economic, democratic, and have solutions that can tackle these issues that combine, the solutions towards, all these different goals, combining economic growth with climate neutrality with social justice, energy transition with, creating jobs, climate neutrality again with citizens' participation and so on. It's hard. Of course, smart technologies do help, but it's still very hard. And that's why we need a lot of eyes. So in a way, the I, the letter I. And for me, I, in this case, would be related to two words. One for, I for imagination. We need loads of creativity at the moment, even more than before. Being smartly resilient also entails being, totally open to all sorts of solutions, capable, you must be capable of out-of-the-box thinking, to use a banal expression. Imagination to help you recognize future risks, to be better prepared for a future that is so hard to predict, to navigate through uncertain times, and at the same time be able to communicate with your citizens and understand what they actually need and what they will need. It's so a lot of imagination, but I also like innovation, of course, because even if it's a concept that is super and overused, at the end of the day, it's a key concept. And I'd like to talk about a bit about the work I've done in the last year within the board that the European Commission has set up, and that defined the idea of a mission to achieve 100 climate neutral cities by 2030 by and for the citizens. You must know this missions idea. So there was one about climate neutrality and smart cities, and the report we've produced goes into this idea of achieving 100 climate neutral cities by 2030 by and for the citizens, using as well smart technologies and smart solutions. And so in our report that I invite you to read, we stress the importance for a city to deliver a systemic innovation, so across the board, in its governance, in its functioning and organization, in its transport, energy, construction, recycling system. So, planning, integrated planning, and, in the investment financial plans, in the way smart technologies are applied as strong enablers, the present silos-based form of governance designed and developed for traditional city operations and services cannot drive at all an ambitious climate transition, nor can it be the base for resilience. You need systemic innovation guided by more strategic, as we said before, strategic, holistic and long-term visions and approaches. And also with a city government and political leadership that is up to the task, yeah? So you can't just have your classical and traditional administration. There has to be a sort of, change and innovation in the administration and organization, like what we call the creative bureaucracy. And also, a new form of politics as well, because you need to change the way. It is important to be able to work with your citizens and in a totally, and stakeholders at the local level in a totally different way, with a new role, that entails sharing power with them in order to get them on board, have them, own the challenges, and even, having them part of even the solutions, because the best solutions, as some mayors say, are not in the city administration, they are outside. So all that needs to be done towards a smarter and more resilient city. And lots of stories about that in SCIS, about citizens' participation, how to work with academia and the private sector, how to ensure that your actual effort to become smarter and healthier and cleaner need a complete paradigm shift in governance. And in the mission, we talk about innovation, also, saying that the 100 cities will spearhead the leveraging of the synergies of Europe's twin green and digital transformations, which is mainly what smart cities are about, and that these cities will work together to address common challenges, they will create economies of scale, and basically serve as innovation hubs for other cities and for Europe. A bit what we want to do with the Living in You initiative, wanting to create a real community of cities to be able to scale up and really boost all that is done at the smart cities level. But we could talk about innovation for hours, and here we have no time. So my next letter is actually more linked to the frustrations that this current context is generating, at least with me, and therefore we use S for a word. Can I use it? No one really dares to use this kind of word in this kind of context, and apologies for those who will be shocked. It's like shit. I think at the moment we are in big, deep shit. And we're living something that has never been experienced before in this current world. I mean, now in these last decades, we are moving like blind people, trying stuff here, trying to imagine what the best next steps would be. But really in front of us is pure uncertainty. So basically maybe to be a bit more educated, basically S for survival. Planning like before or thinking like before will not help anybody to survive. And that's why, all the letters come together. That's why we need to be innovative, we need imagination, we need resilience, we need solidity, but at all levels. I mean, the measures and the responses that our national governments are giving are, going all over the place. I don't know where you live, but still, I mean, I know a couple of them. It's going all over the place. I would never again want to be in the shoes of a prime minister right now, but they're doing their best, okay? But it's really complicated. So, in this really catastrophic picture, what I want to say is that at least cities are giving hope, Hope, H like hope. We can add an H to SCIS because anyway, we can't hear it. Because cities act, they move, they do things that are actually very concrete and very useful. And since the start of the pandemic, we've collected over 400 stories on our COVID-19 platform, the EUROCITIES COVID platform, on how cities have been responding in all domains, from social, economic, cultural, and so on, to remain in this conference, and the theme of the conference with the help as well, a lot, with the help of Smart Solutions platform, data-driven policy and so on. First in the emergency period, and even now in the so-called recovery phase, which, actually is it recovery, but still it's sort of a hybrid phase, because it does still present a strong emergency dimension with this second wave. So anyway, hope, because in front of such a terrible, disastrous picture, many cities are really trying to see this crisis also as an opportunity to think a new normal, to build back better, as people say. Milan putting all these bike lanes, and other cities just, moving along and trying to really think of a new normal, and how an end or disaster can actually trigger a new beginning, like the title of this conference. And for me personally, working on a daily basis with so many city leaders, politicians, but also public administrations, in a way it's reassuring. It's really nice to witness all the examples that really give hope. What is done every day to demonstrate that cities are thinking ahead to recover, trying really hard not to fall back on the old mechanisms that will not contribute to create a sustainable future for all citizens. And cities are sharing their reflections, ambitions, positive, negative results among themselves. And, I'm really proud I can help this sort of exchange, me in the sense of EUROCITIES and all the projects we have and we're involved in. Cities support each other across borders through networks and projects in Europe, like we're doing today. And, in many cases we are doing. And this, I have to say, really, it gives, at least for me, it gives hope, because nobody can respond to this unprecedented crisis alone. So what can I say? Let's work together. Let's scale good things up as much as possible as we can. Let's be smart, resilient, solid, innovative, and above all, let's cheer up and maintain a big hope that in the end everything will be all right. Everything will be new if we really try and change the models that we have now. I realize I've never used the verb I hope so much as I'm doing in this period. So anyway, I hope everything will be fine. But if we all do, and if we all try to move in the right direction, it will work out. So I really wish you a productive and good and inspiring rest of the conference. And I really thank you for listening. Thank you.